Hello and welcome to the RCB radio show. My name is Nicholas Rinn and I'm joined here by James McConaughey, who's a journalist, a freelance journalist, and does a lot of work with the Clare Champion and a lot of other media outlets and does some radio work and Clare GA and various other works. Welcome, Jamesy.
Thanks, Seamus. Thanks, Nicholas. Is Seamus off this weekend?
He's off this weekend. He's Jamesy, we'll go straight into the hurling. We did 4 quarterfinals on last weekend. 4 disappointing games, I think it would be fair to say. We start off with the Cratloe Newmarket game, which was probably the one that probably produced the most in regards. It was 14 points to 5 at half time. Cratloe away ahead, game set and match, you would have thought. But Newmarket brought it back, I think, to as close as 2 points at one stage. Yep. And there was an incident in the match where James McInerney came out with the ball and knocked his men out of the way and cleared the ball, and there was a free given in. It seemed to change back to Cratloe's favour after that one incident, and Newmarket had just wasn't able to recover from that. But I suppose a merited win for Cratloe. 223 to 216 was the final score, and
7 points at the finish. And you know what? That with the consolation goal coming from Colin Ryan from the penalty spot, Cratloe, it looked from they looked like they were in control of that match from throughout. And the thing I did like about the Cratloe team was they had different scores. Like they were spread across the team sheet. Like I'm just looking here, reading from Green's Constantine scored 1-8, and a lot of those were from he had 3 frees and 365s, but still Cathal McInerney chipped in, Dermot Ryan, Shane Gleeson, Sean Gallagher, Podge Collins. Like they had Conor McGrath. They had plenty of scores, and that's what you need if you want to be getting towards the latter stages of the championship. Because, for instance, if a player might have an off day, the other guy can pick up the scoring or pick up where they need to be. So that's what in my mind, I think Cratloe, I'm very impressed with that they can get different scores on the board.
Yeah, and Rian Constantine was the real big difference there. I mean, he turned his men twice there and produced great scores, laid off for a score as well. He scored a great goal, and
fortunate not to get a second goal. Yeah, good save.
Yeah. So, Cratloe did seem to tire a little bit in the second half, and they have a big football game coming up next weekend as well now, and then they went to the semi-final, a big match for them. Can they keep this score? They look very fresh at the very beginning, and or maybe it was just Newmarket that just produced the goods in the second half. But I just thought that they had to rely on Conor McGrath and Podge to go. They went back deep in defence late in the second half. The old heads, and they were well able to see the game out. And I suppose that's a natural part of their game anyway, that they would do that. But is it a case now they have a bit to go yet if they want to do the double, for instance?
I suppose that's always the question upon people's minds in Clare GA with Cratloe. They have the players in their arsenal, but the only thing about them is that they would become jaded with the week in week out playing, and that's a question that's obviously being posed. You look at different players throughout. There's so many players playing, not only just senior. I know we always mention the Cathal Malones and Dave Fitzgerald because they're playing senior with their club, both Eire Og, Sixmilebridge, and Ennis Diamond. You look at the Cratloe boys, you look at the Ballyea fellas. There's still guys who are, I know they may not be playing senior, but they could be playing intermediate or junior for their club. And there's so many games. We talked there a couple of weeks back, Nicholas, we're talking about the seasons changing, and you're on about the split season. And I, for one, was a member. I was a member of I'm pro the split season because number one, you don't really want to play. You're inside the jungle, Nicholas, by the looks of it.
I am.
But you don't want to play games in the muck and when the ground has gone soft and things like that. But at the end of the day, there is only 52 weeks in the year. A lot of those guys will be taking a lot of those guys will be taking a lot of games on board and things like that. And look, too much of anything will make you sick. Same with these guys. I see a couple of guys are picking up injuries who are playing maybe inter-county hurling, inter-county football, and they've been going for since maybe the start of November, since they started back pre-season. So it's a big ask for those players. And you look at it, that's the big question upon Cratloe now. All due respect to Newmarket, they're a pretty good side. very underrated. They put a Clonlara side away. They just lost out to a Sixmilebridge side who were very well fancied. First day out it was a derby, but they don't get the respect that they really deserve. And it was a great win for Cratloe, and
Yeah.
they're a side that I really do fancy coming towards the latter end of the championship.
They are indeed, and there's a lot of other players throughout the field as well. Who've been there for quite a while and who are very steady players and always produce for Cratloe, like the likes of Shane Gleeson, Sean Collins, Damien Brown, Liam Markham, or Cahill McInerney. Sure, I mean, just the class player as well. Like, so they have the stock and trade. James, he never worked with children or animals, obviously. My dog Jack, he's very keen in sports dog. But Sixmilebridge and Wolf Tones then were on Saturday as well. It was the second game there on Saturday. 113 to 7 points for Sixmilebridge at half time. Game effectively over. Wolf Tones came out in the second half again. They produced, their best form. I suppose Aaron Shanahan came into the game a lot, Aaron Cunningham, but really it was Sixmilebridge. Jamie Shanahan was immense. Came in Morey at centre back, had a superb game. David Kennedy came in for Cahill Malone and he produced, I think he scored 1-1 from play. That was not a bad man to bring in first day out. Cahill Lynch scored Shannon Morey, again, a goal, a point. So the Bridge are looking good. Shane Golden goal to I think 3 points, a goal and 3 points, I think, from Shane Golden, who was having a great club year this year.
Yeah, Shane Golden obviously starting at full forward for them in that game, and Jamie Shannon is 13 points, 8 of them coming from frees. But when he's on top form, he's unmarkable. Like, he's got that spin, and that Sixmilebridge team have, again, it's not the same player. They've got, like, as you mentioned, David Kennedy coming in from Malone. The pace that guy has, he's dynamic, he's quick, he may not be the tallest man, but by God, the pace that he has.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the great thing about this Sixmilebridge team this year, that they've changed up their tactics. They've gone away from what they're used to with the David Fitzgerald kind of maybe the defensive side of things, to Sean Stack, just basically get the ball into your full forward line, and if the forwards can't do it, you're coming out beside me, sitting out here. That's it. Like, they put a Wolf Tone side who are dangerous, but this is a Sixmilebridge side that are like, a lot of people are saying that they're favourites for them. They're favourites for the championship, and to be putting up a score like that, 322, it's in the business end of championship, that's some serious scoring, and it's impressive.
Yeah, it has to be said that Wolf Tones had to go out without their inter-county player Darragh Lohan, who was injured. But I suppose Sixmilebridge, you said it there. They're my favourites anyway. I had Ballyea favourites at the beginning of the year, and Ballyea won't be far away. But I think Sixmilebridge have, they've taken on all comers so far. They have the goods now to play. We won't talk about it tonight, but they are facing Eire Og, who are comprehensive winners. And we'll talk about Eire Og a little later on. But the spread of players that Sixmilebridge have, they're all comfortable in their positions. They have all massive experience. And Sean Stack is, to my mind, one of the best managers in Clare. He's gone further afield. He's gone down into Limerick. He's gone different places, Tipperary, and he's everywhere he's gone, he's got results. And he's a simple man in that he does things simple. I think he's more the same. Branda is, I manage the team. You play. You go out and play the team you want to play. And he's given great freedom to a lot of players. Jamie Shannon and Cameron Morey, Cameron Morey was normally the sweeper, but he's allowed to play a centre back role now, and a role that he relishes in. Same as Jamie. Shane Gordon, you can see how Shane Gordon is playing so well as well. Sean Stack definitely has. He's one of the great club managers, I think, at the moment, anyway.
Yeah, and the thing about him is he's given players, from looking at their team sheet there, he's given players that would have played intermediate, like Cahill Lynch. I know he played Larkin Fitzgerald and players like that, who would have been playing maybe at intermediate level, and they're getting a run out David Kennedy, which is good to see. I know what you're talking about there. It's a very simple game plan that his is. It's basically go out, hurl, beat your man, and that's, maybe it's as easy as that sometimes. But Nicholas, you seem to be a fan of the brand of hurling that he's playing.
People would accuse me of being old school, but I love a goalkeeper, 3 full backs, 3 half backs, 2 midfields, and your 6 forwards in position. and play direct hurling, bring in more of the skills into the game. One thing I saw about Cratlough's play was they brought an awful lot of the skills, the blocking, the hooking, and all that. No matter they're frustrated, no matter the lot, and you can see that in Sixmilebridge's play as well. And that, this running game is not as skillful. The sweeper system, I'm not a fan of. A total sweeper system. You can bring back a midfield. You can plug holes here and there, but I'm not a fan of any systems, to be quite honest. I love the game of hurling as it's played. Now, there's other people who will argue with me and say I'm wrong, but for me, the short puck out, all that, I can't see how you can take a short puck out. It takes 5 more passes to get the ball up and then it's sometimes recycled again. Liam Doyle in his day, any of the good Anthony Daly would deliver a perfect ball into a forward who can take his man on. Then he won't win every ball, obviously, but that's my, that's what I like about John Stack and Sixmilebridge.
I was just about to say that's something that sticks out because like the ball, and that's one man I've mentioned already is Colm Malone. What I've seen of him, the championship this year, is he's like a quarterback. He gets the ball in the ruck and he recycles back around. Conor Deasy's the exact same. Lovely strike of the slitter. And the ball that goes into their forwards, it's a dream for any person playing in a full forward line. And it's a nice little ball that's you're well able to deal with, and it's a nightmare for a defender to be dealing with. And that's one reason, that's another reason I think themselves and Ballyea give for their forwards, they give them perfect ball in, and it puts the defender under so much threat. And this Sixmilebridge team, as I mentioned, it won at a 3-22 in a last 8 game. That's some serious scoring.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Sunday afternoon, then we left Cusack Park. We came back on Sunday afternoon. The Ballyea faced Clooney-Quin. This was kind of flagged as being the game of the weekend almost, but Ballyea showed their strength and power, and Tony Kelly again, just the man is a massive player, from midfield, and Niall Deasy, Aaron Griffin, and Mossy Gavin, 2 points each. Aaron Griffin is playing great hurling now this year, and. They have a steadiness to their team, and they get the job done, Ballyea, and they have the marquee players. Clooney-Quin just didn't get off the ground at all. I suppose they have a lot of young players, and it takes time. It definitely takes time. Peter Duggan, tried as hard as he could. He was brilliant from frees. I thought Ulico Sullivan was very good, and Ryan Taylor, who went out injured, he was injured starting the game, and he played his heart out, but John Kennedy. So the bridge, the Clooney-Quin are a bit off yet, I suppose, from challenging at the quarter-final stage, I suppose.
No more than our inter-county team, though, Nicholas. It's a step in the right direction. They were down in relegation last year, and now they were competing for quarterfinals. Right. Obviously, the addition of Peter Duggan back full fitness, and look, with our Clare minor team had was it 3-4 players from Clooney-Quin, so that club is going in the right direction, which is always a positive. But yeah, you look at half time, Peter Duggan landed 2 monster points, and that game was all square. I think it was 1-8 to 11, so that'll make it
yeah.
a tie game, and it was just a second half masterclass from Ballyea that got them over the line there.
Yeah, that's the thing about Ballyea. They just, when you've been there and you've done that, it's huge when you get into quarterfinal. Then you've got the experience. You've won it before. You've won it a few times, and you have the Jack Browns, you have the Paul Flanagans, and obviously Tony Kelly, Niall Deasy. But there's other guys in there. Cathal O'Connell got a goal, for instance. He had quite enough game, but he got a goal very early, which set the tone. Brian Casey, Gerard O'Connell, they're all James Murphy, Peter Casey, fullback. I was very impressed with him. Big, strong, old style fullback, and Barry Coote in the goal. So, I mean, Ballyea, even though they're obviously missing Brennan's influence, Gary Brennan, he was a huge player for them. He's a huge loss to them. I feel like, but they're in a semi-final now, and they'll be delighted with where they are.
Yeah, I suppose being holders and that, and they're a very honest team. looking across there at their, like Tony Kelly scored 1-7 for them, and Niall Deasy scored 7 points. Those two players are on the scoring board for them, are influential, highly influential. But I suppose another thing that is Tony Kelly's not playing Gaelic football this year. You got, I don't know now, is Niall Deasy. I'm not 100% sure, but across the board, there majority of other guys are playing Gaelic football. So there's that side of things of high crossover players. But then you look at the other teams, as I mentioned, Cratloe, and then Eire Og will have a couple of guys who would be playing Gaelic football, but not as many as per se Ballyea or Cratloe. So that's why I'm kind of slightly leaning towards Sixmilebridge, because they'll have, geez, 1-2 players to noteworthy that'll be playing Gaelic football. So they'll have that week off, and they'll have that time to recharge the batteries and get things set for the for the semi-final, the last four decider.
Yeah. The last quarter final, then Eire Og were obviously coming to town. Well, they live in town, but they came they came with revenge on their mind. Obviously, they were very disappointed when Kilmona beat them at the semi-final stage last year, and they wanted to atone for that. And my God, how well they did atone. You know, I thought tactically Kilmona got it totally wrong, and I thought Eire Og got it spot on. They placed Shane O'Donnell in full forward. They moved down. Gavin Cooney and Darren O'Brien moved out to the half forward line almost. So Keith White was on a hiding to nothing, because he was inside on his own with an Ulster on him, an Ulster full forward on him, and the whole pitch to play with, the whole, you know, from 21-yard line in was completely free. I mean, you just cannot do that against a guy like that. And he had 1-3 on the board within 9 minutes. He ended up with 1-9.
He teed up the second goal as well.
And teed up the second goal, is right, yeah. You know, the man is just, he's a massive player, like, but surely the tactic should have been a little bit, you know, he shouldn't have been given that space, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand where
your own brother, like, why I thought he might have been moved back to cover, because he would be, and he'd be probably a good marker like Cahill, like, you know, but I don't know. What's your thoughts on it anyway?
It's easy to judge, I suppose, sitting here on we're not sitting on high stools, but it's easy to judge looking from afar until you're out there. The space wasn't incredible, but they're the first team I have seen play with a one-man full forward line and play two sweepers, Eire Og, and that could completely and utterly throw the championship off keel against Sixmilebridge when they played them, because obviously Sixmilebridge would have been keeping an eye on like all the games after their victory on Saturday, but that Eire Og performance, they got it down to a T. The game was over. The game was over after around 20 minutes, and everything they done. It was one of those days though for Eire Og that everything they hit went over. It was just, everything was perfect. Now Matt Shannon, I think he got it spot on with the way they set up. But are they going to do the same thing now the next day against Sixmilebridge? It's hard to know. Shane O'Donnell he's outrageous. The man, like, even when people were complaining about Clare's performance against Kilkenny, the man still scored 4 points on a day that was left a sour taste in a lot of Clare supporters' mouths. He was outrageous. He was outrageous with Eire Og the last day.
Yeah.
And he teed, not even just people go, oh, he's the scorer that, like, he teed up the goal for Danny, sorry, my mind's gone blank. Danny
Russell, yeah.
Yeah, Danny Russell scored 1-7. I don't know how many of that was from frees, but like Shane O'Donnell was adjudged to have been fouled a few times as well. So, like, to play a one-man full forward line and to dictate and to play the way that he did, it just fell into Eire Og's hands perfectly. But yeah, it's going to be a different ball game the next day with Barry Fitzpatrick playing inside and full back, a hard man, and as well Shane O'Morey to be covering in behind, and Cayman Murray. So yeah, it's going to be a real mouth-watering affair, those two games, and it's going to be very hard to call. Of course, the game was really marred by the incident that started the second half.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but I mean, we're not really judging, we're analysing what happened, and there is no way that that Shane O'Donnell, that Sixmilebridge will give him that type of room, so they'll have to come up with another plan. It'll be a different game altogether. Like
But
I've no bother, Jamesy, with going out the way we went out, but you could see after 9 minutes, effectively, you had to do something, and we didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, and that's the problem I have. You've got to fix it if it's broken, and try something different. It was late in this, well into the second half when we tried that. But look at, you have to hand it to Eire Og. You have to hand it to the way they went out. David Reedy, David McNamara, Shane O'Donnell, Darragh O'Brien, Gavin Cooney, all played their part. Danny Russell was the mince. Kieran Russell and Aaron Fitzgerald they were in a mean mood on Sunday. They were letting nothing through. Now, Eire Kilmore are in a position similar to Clooney-Quin, where they have a lot of young players and very young players at that. Niall Mullins and Sean Rinn, and these lads, Conor Hegarty is just coming out of the minor, and this Shane Woods. So they have a lot of young players, yet they've done a lot of brilliant work at underage, the club itself, and those players like Colin Shannon, relatively young as well. Like and Eamon Foley was immense in goals. He got off 2 brilliant saves. But they probably need another bit of time to develop those players.
But Nicholas, just getting back to the first topic that you were talking about there with the Eire Og players, they were brilliant, and it worked to a T for them. But it is when there's a numerical advantage of 8 versus 5. Eire Kilmore played a sweeper, Eire Og played 8 back. That's how influential Shane O'Donnell was in this game, and I don't think people understand that.
Yes.
That's why they were able to play their game plan. They threw curveball in, and it worked down to a T. So that's why Eire Og, Eire Kilmore may have been shaken and things like that. So that's the one topic that I wanted to bring up. The second thing is, yes, I think Eire Kilmore do. This year, of course, Patrick Kelly was they changed up in the goalie. Patrick Kelly was displaced by Eamon Foley, and a couple of injuries. Keith White didn't play. Keith White has been out the whole year. Aidan McCarthy had a horrific injury at the end of last season. Conor Hegarty didn't play. You could count the amount of minutes he played on single hand. Kevin Hare, of course, and a former intercounty player, didn't play too much action. So you take any players like that out of any team, it's going to rip the heart out of them.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be reading too much into this year. It was just you draw a line under it and you move on. But they didn't have the greatest league campaign, and the championship, they kind of just fell through it. So as I said, I wouldn't read too much into it, and hopefully next year for the club it's better.
Yeah, and we have to remember that the same management team brought us to a county final within a point of winning or drawing a county final. So, that has to be said as well. Like, we're not always going to be picking out all the bad things. 5 minutes into the second half, and Jason McCarthy, our star player, intercounty player, he sustained a serious leg injury. He sort of an Eire Og player clipped him. It was totally accidental. It was one of the worst injuries I've seen, and I've been around a long time, to a player. Now, I was talking to Jason yesterday. I called to see him, and he's in good form. He's in good form. He's a strong character. The man has made a steal, as far as I'm concerned. And I knew that before Sunday, but Sunday proved, he was left on the field for an hour. Anybody else would just have been unconscious, I think. But a fantastic character, Jason. He's obviously he's got to go for an op and that, and but he's, at least he said when they got the leg back into place, that it eased the pain a bit. But it's a horrific injury. We're not going to, the HSE, the GA, whoever. I don't know what. It's not our job to analyse how long it took for an ambulance to come, but it was terrible that a player was lying there for an hour. That's the thing for the politicians and I hope that the politicians in Clare are asking questions of why it took an hour for an ambulance to come, because next week it could be somebody else's story in a house or in a parish or in the community. So it's something the politicians really need to answer those questions. But
our local senator, Roisin Murphy, took to the channel and brought up that. But I know what you mean, Nicholas. To be on the ground for an hour, it was probably over an hour, because I was looking at the clock. It was 5 minutes in, and the clock went all the way to 60 and it went back again. And it was looked at my clock after it. So it was probably an hour and 15 minutes. It's disappointing to see something like that happen. I know down in Kilkishen, Shannon Hibbs were playing in a soccer match and the same thing happened this weekend.
Same scenario,
yeah. Whenever you walk out into the pitch, unfortunately, that's you're putting your livelihood online. It's a sport, and unfortunately, Jason sustained an injury against Eire Og this weekend. But touch wood, that doesn't happen now in the foreseeable future for any player playing Gaelic football or hurling. But you do have to pose that question if the Clare GAA would potentially look into get maybe maybe not first aid, but like an ambulance or someone like from so that it can be there for at least the two semi-finals and the Gaelic football or the quarterfinals this weekend of the Gaelic football at the GAA headquarters. Like the game was at an Ennis, and the hospital isn't that far away there. I'd say you'd even throw a stone that far.
There's a lot of things, like people said there should have been an ambulance there. It's not feasible to have an ambulance there from the HSE. They won't give you one to stay there for 2 days. The other thing is a private ambulance. I heard them explaining that a private ambulance would not have been able to attend Jason. It has to be HSE personnel for an injury like that. So, I mean, it's a chicken and egg situation there, really. Like,
I know, but like, what happens if it was worse? What happens if, let's say, if it was a heart attack or something like that, or brain aneurysm or whatever it may be?
Yeah, there's a defibrillator there. If somebody gets a heart attack, I'm the first one there with a defibrillator, or there's somebody else in place. I know, James, you wouldn't want to see me coming, but anyway, but that is in place at all times there in Cusack Park. If I'm up here at 9 in the middle of the day, or up in Kilnamore in the middle of the day, and I break my leg and I'm on my own, surely I would expect somebody, and I'm not playing a game of hurling, surely I would expect it to be an ambulance within 20 minutes at the very least, for minutes, like, or any place in Clare. And that's not the GAA's, so you cannot have a, they're all saying the GAA, but the GAA they can't. There were so many events on in Clare last Sunday, musical events, different events. Like, so do you have an ambulance at all those events? You can. It's not possible. So, but I do agree with you that the GAA will have to look at making sure that maybe there's a phone call made earlier in the day and say to the HSE, we hope that you can provide a service here for us if there is a situation, like, so.
Yeah.
But the other question I want to ask you is, for that hour and maybe 15 minutes, should the game have been abandoned? Or what is the rule? I don't know. People have asked me this today. Like, I'm not taking away from Eire Og's brilliant win. Eire Og fully deserved to win. And of course, like, but from a player's welfare point of view, to be standing out there in the rain for that length of time, I know some of them went back into the dressing room and that. What is the precedent there? I wonder. I put you on the spot there, like, I've been told today that actually the game should have been called off.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for it to be called off, and I'm not looking to take anything away from Eire Og. I'm just saying, what is the? I wonder what the rule is there.
Yeah, it is something like that. It's kind of a blurred lines, because, like, how often does something like an incident like this happen in sport? Like, even at the high level, I've never seen a player snap their leg in half like that. You might see it in maybe UFC or in the Premier League or things like that, but very rarely would you see it in GAA. So look, everybody was caught off guard on the whole incident, but now that it's happened, they need to get an avenue to sort that out, because
and I'm certainly not having to go at Rory McGann either. He had an excellent game, like, and he was very good throughout the whole lot, and there was a lot of people there on Sunday that played their part as well, like, and the medical team from both Eire Og come in and Aina Kilmona came in and was with Jason throughout, so
it's terrible for the family, like, after last year Aidan getting sustaining a leg injury, Jason. So, as you said, though, that if there's one family that it probably would be best off happening to, now it should never happen to any family, is them, because they've steely-eyed determination. Like, those guys, they're made of different stuff.
Yeah. I haven't time to discuss the Clarecastle Whitegate game, but Clarecastle stayed up, and the great club that they are, like, it was supposed to be the game of the weekend, a fantastic game. game of hurling, and in the other one, Scariff had a big win over Smith O'Brien's. I just have to mention Mark Rogers, the captain of the team. He scored, I think it was 4-14 that he scored. Just unbelievable that a player can play can do that in a championship game. It has to be some sort of a record. I'm not too sure. Jimmy Smith scored 6. I think it was a 6-3 or 6-4 in most of the championship game, 6 whatever it was. But this must be some sort of a record anyway in modern day.
Yeah. He scored 4. Geez, Nicholas, you're adding on points. You're taking away poor old points from some other player there playing for Scariff. He scored 4-12, but in 40 minutes, and 4-3 coming from play. It's serious scoring.
Yeah.
I was down at a game myself. West Clare Gales were playing Cora Clare in a ladies' football game. And I was saying the same thing. It must be some sort of record. There's a girl by the name of Fidelma Marnin. She's a Clare senior or Clare intermediate footballer, sorry.
Yeah.
And she scored 10 in the game. So there's some talented attackers playing in this county.
Absolutely. We have a big weekend of football. We've only got 6 minutes left, JMC. It's Cratloe, Kilmurray, Brecon. In this time, place St. Brecons, St. Joseph's against Kilmehel. And what's the other one then? Eire Og and Clonagad.
Yeah.
Sorry, St. Joseph. Sorry, not St. Joseph's, Kilmehel. Lissycasey and Corofin, of course. Big weekend for football. Yeah.
Of course, Cratloe would have played in the hurling last week, so there's a high, something similar to, like, you look looking across those games. Cratloe, Corofin, they would have had a lot of players that would have played both. Were playing both codes, and this Cratloe team as well. They're coming back with renewed vigor this year. Obviously, the last couple of outings against Kilmurray or Brecon, those two teams have played against each other a lot this season. Sorry, down through the last decade. I think it's 14 times in 15 years that they've played each other, and the last 5 outings, it's been Kilmurray or Brecon that have come out on top on those ones. So I think I just feel that Cratloe they'll come with a bit of vengeance in this game. Obviously, all the games have been played in Cusack Park this weekend. That's the first one.
Yeah,
that's the first one thrown in on Saturday, and I quietly fancy this Cratloe team. Yeah. There's something different about them this year, and I think Colin Collins has them in the right mindset going into that one. But again, this is a Kilmurray or Brecon side.
Yeah,
I know this is a Kilmurray or Brecon side that you can never write off too much. Now they got through the group. They're beating Clonagad in the last game, and tricky enough group with Ennis-Diamond and Clonagad also. I don't know. I'm slightly leaning towards Cratloe on that one.
Yeah, in this time in the St. Brecons, then just quickly, just give me who do you think of that one?
Yeah, Brecons obviously came through the group of death, beating Corofin, losing to Eire Og, and then obviously putting Milltown into relegation. Was a tricky group, and against the Ennis-Diamond team, who I don't know that they topped their group on head-to-head rather than score difference. So I don't know. It depends on who's available and who's fit. Obviously, Colm Malone didn't play last week for Sixmilebridge. He's a class player for Ennis-Diamond, and if he's missing, I probably have to tend to slide with St. Brecons. But again, if there's going to be anything in that, I'd say there'd be a point.
And St. Joseph's and Lissycasey and Corofin, it's a big game for both clubs.
Lissycasey, they're two of those teams obviously featured this year in the Gary Cup final, and Corofin came out the right side of that one. Corofin started the championship on I suppose on a high note. They beat Milltown in that one, and after that, it's they've just been they came up against obviously the county champions Eire Og, and they were defeated by St. Brecon. So it's again, it's very similar to the Ennis-Diamond and the Brecons game. It's going to be a lot different to the hurling last weekend. These football games are going to be, they're so close you throw a coat over them. It's a really hard game to call. Obviously, Corofin, I think Lissycasey are somewhat similar to the Corofin hurlers. They can lose to anybody and they can beat anybody on their given day. And they have great team chemistry, I think, that Corofin team. But playing week in, week out, obviously the hurlers, the intermediate hurlers, had a great win against Tober last week in the intermediate championship. They've the Crusheen boys, and of course Robin Mount, who's immense for them. So I don't know, Nicholas, I'll leave that one up to you. I was a big fan when I was writing the Clare champion of predictions draws. I called 4 draws one day, and 2 of them were draws, and the other 2 were I got wrong.
Eire Og, obviously county champions are going to be favourites against Clooney-Quin, but they mightn't get it all their own way.
Yeah, exactly. That Clonagad team that they got over the line there in the playoff game against Bearfield.
That's right.
Wasn't a game for the memory to live long in the memory, but they're coming up against an Eire Og side. Obviously, they're buoyed with confidence. They're undefeated. They're current holders, and I suppose a lot does depend on how Clonagad use the role of Gary Brennan. He's a very important player for them, and obviously we know in the circles of Clare football that he's a very instrumental player for both his intercounty and his club. Yeah, you probably would have to side with Eire Og in this one. They've some great footballers, obviously Gavin Cooney, Mark McInerney, to name a few. I think they'll just have enough on all of those games. I think Eire Og will probably have a bit to spare on Clonagad, but the other ones, if I was to say, I wouldn't be surprised if the three of them are draws.
Yeah. So that's about it, James. See, obviously there's going to be replay in the intermediate between Shannon Gales and Shannon Gales and Kildysart, and I suppose that's probably the fairest way to resolve it. We're nearly out of time, James. Everybody get to Cusack Park. There's a great weekend of football there. Any ambulance driver around, please get there as well. And we wish Jason McCarthy all the very best and a speedy recovery. It's a pity he's going to miss out this weekend for Kilmurray-Ebrick, but his brother will be there and the family name is still there, and Jason will be back soon. So thanks very much, Jamesy, for coming on.
Nicholas, I have one question to ask you. What did you do with your animals?
What?
What did you do with your animals?
What's with my animals? Oh, they're very sporty animals here. Anyway, that's Jack. He's a keen follower. A big fan of yourself, Jamesy. Thanks for coming on. We're out of time. This is just we could have talked a lot more about the football, but we'll catch up with the football next weekend when the two semi-finalists are known, and the best of luck to all teams heading out. And that's it for the RCB show for this weekend. Thanks a million, Jamesy.
See you, Nicholas.
Thanks.